Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. And today it'll be talking all about things about Everton. Obviously, we're going there for the trip to Goodison Park. Safe to say that fixtures had a lot of highs and a lot of downs from last season, if you just have a look at the results. But joining me is senior football writer over at the Liverpool Echo, is Connor O'Neill. Connor, how you doing, mate?
All good, Tom. All good. Ready for another big game for the Blues. So like the Blues, Everton, of course, on Saturday afternoon, Goodison Park.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and talk about Everton. Obviously, there's been a lot of things going on off the pitch, but I want to talk about form first because looking at the fixtures and the results that you've had in the past, you've had really good recent form at the moment. What's been the change at the moment over at Sean Dyche's side?
It's really interesting because obviously they went 5 games at the start of the season without a win in the Premier League, and everyone was pretty alarmed, and there was a bit of a doom and gloom centred around the club in the sense of everyone was preparing themselves for a third straight relegation battle, and many people saying, well, you beat it twice, you're not going to beat it a third time, and obviously they went and got an unexpected win, I think, in many people's eyes at Brentford, which really kick-started this run, if we're being honest, what they've been on. But certainly in the home games that they played at the start of the season against Fulham and Wolves, they should have been comfortably out of sight on both occasions. Certainly in the first half, Fulham missed 3 gilt-edged chances. Against Wolves, they missed 4 gilt-edged chances for the 90 minutes and were sucker-punched with goals late on. So they didn't deserve to lose them games, but they did, and I think that's whatever people feeling the worst that this season was going to be one of them where nothing quite went their way, and it was going to be a battle to avoid the drop. But since Brentford, they just really kicked on. I think Sean Dyche has found a settled team. I think his team's now got a lot more balance than what it had last season. I think for a large part of last season, after coming in January, it was round pegs and square holes, and people were doing jobs and filling in. And now it's certainly been helped by a lot more balance with like Jack Harrison coming in. And the big one really has been Dominic Calvert-Lewin's return, because he's been absolutely superb since he come back, since the September international break. And he's someone who everyone has long said, if Everton act on Calvert-Lewin, they're not going to be fighting relegation, not going to be doing this, not going to be doing that. But it was always a bit of an unknown, because there's no guarantee that is always the case. But in recent weeks, we've seen that if Dominic Calvert-Lewin is fit and available, then Everton should be nowhere near the bottom 5 teams this season in the Premier League, fighting to avoid the drop, unless things off the pitch take control, which obviously there's a threat of a points deduction should the hearing with the Premier League, with the Independent Commission, not go in the favour of the Blues. But in terms of the upturn in form, I think it's just been down to player availability and things coming off that quite weren't coming off at the start of the season.
You mentioned it just there about all the things that's going on off the pitch. There's quite a fair bit to talk about, and obviously the first thing I think we should talk about is your former chairman Bill Kenwright. Just talk about really what was Bill Kenwright like as a union fan and someone who's been with the club for such a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of a fan, and there was no bigger blue than Bill Kenwright, and it's quite fitting that he's often referred to as Blue Bill, and he was a massive Evertonian. He's long been a massive Evertonian, and as a person, he was a very generous person, and someone who was done their best for other people, and tried to do what was good in the world. I think as a chairman at Everton, it's been a real difficult few years for him. I think obviously last January he was told to stay away from the game against Southampton, and he never returnned to Goodison. Then it was one of them in the sense of, I think, he brought in Farhad Moshiri and, probably paid the price a little bit for that in the sense of some of the decisions that have been made in recent years. Obviously, as a figure as the club, a lot of criticism came his way. So I think in terms of, Bill Kenwright as a person, he was a gentle soul who done his best for what he believed was the best for the people and tried to help other people as much as he could. As an Everton fan, he's one of the biggest, probably Everton fans there is going. But I think as a chairman, it's been I think there was a lot of good at Bill Kenwright, certainly, before Farhad Moshiri comes to the football club. You think of the patience which he showed David Moyes when things got tough in that 11 years, because it wasn't always rosy, it wasn't always, looking up and challenging and punching up the weight. There was some dark moments where Everton were nerves looking over the shoulder in a battle to avoid relegation. But one thing about Kenwright was he held his nerve, he held his he kept patience with David Moyes because he knew that he had the right man in charge of the football club who could turn things around. And towards the end of that 11-year spell, Everton paid reaped the benefits of that patience because Everton were far superior than what they should have been in terms of where they were coming every season in the Premier League. Since Farhad Moshiri's come in, I think it was seen as like this new era. The billionaire arrived, and there'll be a checkbook now for transfers, which David Moyes always hadn't had, and stuff like that. And if anything, it's been one massive disaster. The money wasted is off the scale. Recruitment's gone horribly wrong. Manager after manager after manager. I think it's 6 sackings and one resignation. And unfortunately, Bill paid the price a little bit for that because he was the chairman, and he was on a board that many fans deemed wasn't fit enough to run the club and shouldn't be running the club. So I think when you look at Bill Kenwright as a chairman of Everton, it's almost like you've got to look at it in two ways, in the sense of the pre-Farhad Moshiri tenure and the Farhad Moshiri tenure. And like I say, unfortunately for Bill, I think he was caught up in the Farhad Moshiri tenure. And it just went wrong, and it went wrong very fast. And no one wanted to be fighting relegation, and that was where Everton found himself doing the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. And the other thing that seems to be going on off the field is this hearing going with the Premier League. Those who are a bit unfamiliar with what's going on over at Everton in the Premier League, what is exactly happening with financial fair play?
Well, this is the mad thing, is no one really knows, because there's not a lot of information out in the public domain, and both sides have been very quiet, the Premier League and Everton, in terms of what is actually going on and what the charge relates to and stuff like that. I think the big thing, or the big takeaway, is that obviously this hearing is now finished, it's been completed, and the outcome of this hearing will be made by the independent commission, and independent commission only. The Premier League will have no say in what is the punishment, or whether Everton are found guilty or not guilty. Everton have long denied that they've done anything wrong. I think that's worth pointing out. Since this news broke in March, that they'd been referred to an independent commission for a breach of profit and sustainability rules. Everton have long denied that they believe that they're innocent, they've done nothing wrong. But in terms of like what is actually known, and no one really knows what's going on at the minute, it's all very cloak and dagger. And obviously there was a newspaper report come out last week about Everton facing the Premier League recommends Everton face a 12-point deduction if they are found guilty, because the Premier League want to enforce the harshest punishment possible. That's something that the Premier League wouldn't comment on. When we approached them at the Echo, they quick to say that the hearing is a private, and they've got nothing to say until it essentially concludes. So I think at the minute it's just a waiting game to see how things, when we don't even know as things stand when the outcome of this hearing is going to become public. There's been no indication of when it could come. It's just it's over now, and it's just a matter of waiting to see what comes of it. But yeah, the charge relates to a breach of profit and sustainability rules in terms of Everton's accounts. It's only the one charge. I think that's worth putting out. Not the 100 not that Manchester City are facing with the Premier League. But yeah, in terms of actually what it actually relates to and stuff like that, no one really knows at the minute. It's all very, very quiet, and I think it's just a case of a waiting game to see when this outcome drops, and then what is released into the public domain as a result of that.
So safe to say that there's a lot of things hanging in the balance at the moment for Everton. But one thing that's for sure is your new ground. Talk us about that. How excited are Evertonians to get this new ground?
Yeah, I think it's the one shining light at the minute at the football club. I think, like you say, there's been a lot of off the field noise, as Sean Dyche likes to call it, and just when you think that noise is quieting down, something else comes along that takes centre stage. It's certainly not been a quiet time when you're covering the football club, that's for sure. But yeah, the new stadium is certainly something that I think supporters are absolutely relishing getting in there. I think you look at the likes of Brighton and Arsenal and Tottenham and other clubs who've moved to new modern day stadiums, and how good they are. And, that's where Everton fans are long been. I think there'll be tears shed when people leave Goodison Park. Obviously, it's been a historic home for the Blues for a long, long time now. But I think everyone accepts that for Everton to move forward and compete in this modern day football era, they've got to have a modern state of the art stadium. This the stadium at Bramley-Moore Dock will be. It's quite fitting. The other week that, even though it's not finished yet, it's been selected as one of the host venues for Euro 2028, which I think is a milestone. already for it, that it's attracting such a big competition, to Liverpool, which will not only benefit Everton supporters but benefit the city of Liverpool and the economy as well. But yeah, I think it's just it's the one shining light at the minute, and I think it's now getting very real as well. When you go past, I go past there quite a bit, obviously, on my journey into the Liverpool Echo office, and it's gone from kind of a structure and a bit of a frame to now the stadium being built, and now they're working on the inside in terms of putting seats in, putting speakers in. I think the plan soon is that in a few months the pitch will start to be laid and stuff like that. So it's all becoming very, very real now. And I think although there'll be sadness when Everton leave Goodison Park, I think every Everton fan accepts that the club have got to make this move, because if they don't, then they'll be left behind. Because they've already been left behind when you look at other clubs. Certainly Brighton is one of them who've left Everton behind. So this is a move that Everton need to make, and I think it's one that fans are excited about, because, like I say, what's been a tough couple of years, it's been the one shining bright and the one shining light amongst the club supporters, that they've got something to look forward to.
Now let's go back to what's going to happen over at Goodison Park, because like I said earlier, last season the fixture on both games was, shall we say, highs and lows for both teams really. 4-1 win for over at Goodison Park around New Year's Day, during the New Year, and Everton come back to Amex, and they, well, from my perspective, it's nothing short but a freak result really. A 5-1 win, thrashing of Sean Dyche's side, by far and away the most shocking I've ever seen at the Amex, really. Did you guys see anything of this coming your way, considering the form you going into that match?
No, I think is the answer. No one saw that coming. I think some maybe thought we might sneak a 1-0, and that could be a real back to the wall performance. We might nick a goal and then just defend for the rest of the game. But no one saw the 5-1 win coming. No one predicted that. I don't think anyone was of sane mind would even produce thought Everton would have scored 5 goals in one game, let alone against Brighton. But no one saw that coming. And I think in the end, ultimately, it was the victory that kept them up, because it was the one victory on the one weekend where all the relegation rivals lost that moved them that few points clear at the bottom three. So yeah, no one saw that coming. And that was probably, I think that the biggest result of Sean Dyche's tenure so far was obviously Bournemouth on the final day of last season, when they wanted to stay up, because obviously if they hadn't won, they'd have been relegated, with the fact Leicester beat West Ham. But I think in terms of performance, it was certainly that Brighton game last season where everyone kind of went, wow, that was unexpected, and no one quite saw that coming, especially well after what Brighton had done to Everton at Goodison Park just a few months earlier, January, when they ran riot. So yeah, no one saw that coming. And I think that laid the foundations though a little bit for this season, in the sense of that gave a bit of a blueprint in how Everton can play away from home, because that's one of the big things of this season. I'm sure we're going to come into it a bit more, but Everton have been better away from home this season than they have at Goodison. A lot of their better performances have come on the road. You think of Brentford, Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup, West Ham last weekend. They're better on. They've been better on the road than they have at home. And it almost felt like Brighton last season was the blueprint in which Sean Dyche stumbled across, perhaps in terms of how to set his side up away from home to get the best out of them. And so no one saw it coming, but it was a much appreciated 3 points given the position Everton found themselves in at the time, when everyone was nervously thinking, the end is near.
Yeah, and well, let's go ahead and talk about the match. What's the team news? What's the latest over at Everton, and who are the players that Brighton really need to keep an eye out for?
I think obviously in terms of team news, Everton have got no new injury concerns, which I think has been a real boost for Sean Dyche in recent weeks. Only Seamus Coleman, who will play for the under-21s on Saturday against Manchester United, but he's nearing a return, but we don't expect to see him probably until after the November international break now. And Dele Alli and Andre Gomez is still some time away in terms of where their fitness lies. So I think Sean Dyche will have a full strength squad to choose from. I think the big players to look out for Jarrod Branthwaite at the back, who's been absolutely superb since coming in against Wolves at the end of August. He was a player Everton. He was kind of one of them players where Everton fans wanted to see more of, but Sean Dyche didn't perhaps seem willing to put him in at the start of the season. But since he's come in, he's been absolutely superb, and his form was rewarded with a new contract a few weeks ago. But he's someone who's really caught the eye. it's almost shades of John Stones when he was at Everton a couple of years ago, in that calm, composed figure at the back, comfortable on the ball, can use both feet, and already in true Everton style, fans are talking about how well we won't be seeing him for a long time. We won't be seeing him forever because he'll be off next summer because he's that good. And people are saying clubs like Manchester City should be taking a close look at him. But I'm really intrigued to see how he does tomorrow, because if Evan Ferguson plays a front for Brighton, who I think is absolutely superb, and one of the real stars of the Premier League, I think it'll be a really interesting battle between him and Braithwaite and Ferguson. I think we'll get a true taste of how good Braithwaite is tomorrow, because he's had everything pretty much his own way so far. But I'm looking forward to seeing how he copes against Evan Ferguson, because, like I say, I think he's one of the Premier League stars, certainly in a forward perspective this season. And then, of course, obviously, I think the big one for Brighton to look out for is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think he was instrumental in that game on the Bank Holiday Monday back in May. And obviously set up 2 goals, and he's been instrumental since he returned since September international break. And like I said earlier as well, it's no surprise that Everton's upturn in form has coincided with the return of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I think the other one, to look out for is Abdoulaye Doucouré. He signed a new contract today, and obviously he got 2 against Brighton at the Amex back in May. And he's someone who I think perhaps goes under the radar a little bit in the role he plays. He plays just in front of the midfield 2 and behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But he's someone who puts himself around the pitch, puts a real shift in. And talking to Sean Dyche on Thursday, he revealed that at the London Stadium last weekend against West Ham, Doucouré ran 13.5 kilometres, and he was saying that it was just like it's an enormous shift that for a midfielder who essentially should be playing off the striker, but just really puts a shift in for the team. So I think he's someone that they're the 3 I would look out for. But I think that the real thing I'm looking forward to is the battle between Evan Ferguson and Jarrod Braithwaite, because I think that'd be an interesting one to see who comes out on top.
It's interesting you say about Evan Ferguson. Obviously, he's a couple of good memories at Goodison Park himself. I'm interested to see how we line up as well. Personally, I'm not sure what the wheel of rotation to Sebi will have. Ajax just around the corner, but all indications are that Ferguson starting again, who for me has just been classic to watch. I mean, he's only 19 years old and he's breaking records, and actually matched a similar record to that of Wayne Rooney when he was at Everton, I believe, when he scored 10 goals in the calendar year, first teenager to do it. And then Ferguson repeated that feat. It's a sign of what is to come from this young man. And he's a player. It was interesting at Fulham last week. He got the goal, but really he didn't offer much. But that's the kind of player Ferguson can be at times. He can drop back deep and help the wingers out. But then if he gets that opportunity, that space, and if he gets that right touch and that shot, he's dangerous from that. He doesn't really hit the ball hard, doesn't strike it hard, but he can place it so well that it makes it hard for goalkeepers to reach. So it'd be interesting to see how Braithwaite will challenge him on that, and whoever his defensive partner is. Who's it that usually partners up with Braithwaite at the back? Is it Tarkowski still?
James Tarkowski, yeah, he's captain now as well. Tarkowski in absence of James Coleman, which obviously we won't expect to see. But yeah, and to be fair as well, I think that's another been a big boost for Sean Dyche, is that last season he was allowed chop and change at the back. Obviously when he come in, it was kind of Cody and James Tarkowski, but a few games in, Cody dropped out. Then Michael Keane come back in. Michael Keane ended up struggling, dropping out, and Yerry Mina come in for the final few weeks of the season. Obviously, he played at the Amex, and then on the final day of the season, due to the 2 full-backs both being injured, Everton played 3 at the back, which Cody and Mina both played. So that's been a big boost, I think, this season as well, is that since that Wolves game, Braithwaite and Keane, Braithwaite and Tarkowski, have come in and formed a partnership now. And I think it was quite telling this week that, one of my colleagues, Chris Beasley, who spoke to Tarkowski, and he said, one of the big things with Braithwaite is just the trust. He says, like against West Ham at the weekend, the ball got knocked down the line. He said, and he went chasing after Antonio. He said, but I was that confident that I knew he was gonna come out on top. That I knew he didn't have to track back up cover, because you can just have that confidence. And I think that's been the big boost for Sean Dyche, is that finally he's been able to get partnerships across the pitch, like I say, to Doucouré and Calvert-Lewin, Braithwaite and Tarkowski, whereas last season it was very much just round pegs and square holes and people doing jobs, and it was just so disjointed and unbalanced more than anything. And it looked unbalanced when you'd watch it most weeks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Evan Ferguson again, because I must say, when he played at Goodison last season, I thought he was absolutely superb. Him and Matona, who absolutely destroyed Everton down the flank. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting battle between Branthwaite and Evan Ferguson tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, and it'll be an interesting one to see how Dunk compares with Dominic Calvert-Lewin as well. Two brilliant players for England, and definitely talisman for each side as well. How do you feel knowing that Calvert-Lewin has such a big influence? But really, is there anything in terms of depth in case Calvert-Lewin injury woes come back to strike him again?
Yeah, I mean, that is the other big thing, is that, Everton were able to bring Beto in this summer from Udinese, a 6'3" centre forward who puts himself about. He's just been unfortunate. I think that he kind of his arrival coincided with the return of Calvert-Lewin. And I think when it was quite interesting, because when Calvert-Lewin first got back fit and Beto arrived, there was a bit of a debate around Calvert-Lewin could have a fight on his hands. He had to be the number one centre forward, the number 9. But there's no debate now, because in recent weeks he's just been so good that Beto is still very much raw, and there's a few rough edges to him, I think, and he's still adjusting to Premier League football. But that is the beauty that Everton have now got, because they've got Beto and also Yusuf Schmidt, who's joined during the summer as well, who was another 6'4", another 6'1" centre forward from Sporting Lisbon. But he's very much, I think, as well, of the adjusting to life in Premier League. He's only young, but I think he'll take time, and I think he'll be someone who we might see in dribs and drabs this season, not so much all the time. Whereas I think if Calvert-Lewin is to pick up another knock, which touch wood he doesn't, then Beto is, I think, more than capable of coming in and leaving the line forever, which is something that they didn't have last season. And only a Mope, joining from Brighton, but it just didn't work, and I think it was wrong for him to be brought in as the replacement for Calvert-Lewin, given the two forwards who played totally different games. And obviously, I think Mope just got into that run, unfortunately, where he didn't look like he was ever going to score. And I think quite early on into his tenure, Sean Dyche lost faith in Neil Mope. So much like Damari Gray was ended up playing up front and starting the season up top. And it was no surprise when Neil Mope moved to Brentford on transfer deadline day, because I think Sean Dyche was perhaps didn't see him in his plans moving forward. But Everton do have the luxury this season of having Beto to call upon if Calvert-Lewin wants to pick up a knock, or needs the rest, or if they want to go too forwards on if they're chasing the game. And that's a luxury that Sean Dyche didn't have last season, because, like I say, he just had Neil Mope when Dominic Calvert-Lewin was injured, and I think Neil Mope was someone who very quickly Sean Dyche lost faith in and didn't really fancy, if we're being honest.
Yeah, that, to be honest with you, does sound very much like Neil Mope. He can have his, shall we say, his emotions get the better of him at the best of times, and he's one that loves to do a few antics and shenanigans as well. And sometimes it just doesn't feel right when he doesn't get into form as well. So it's very interesting to hear that from you as well, from your experience of Mope as well. I mean, I've always enjoyed watching him play. Just very frustrated that he just doesn't have that end product that he's clearly capable of, but just never happens to that way anyway.
I think it's quite interesting when you say about we talk about like his antics and stuff, because that was one thing Everton fans were quite looking forward to seeing, that that little bit of like nastiness and that little bit of like but he didn't show it enough. I don't know whether his confidence just went that early on, and it drained out of him, that he kind of become a bit of a shell of himself. But we just didn't see that kind of like, that edge where he maybe rattled centre-backs and rattled the opposition. We just didn't see it enough, and I think that was something Everton fans were really looking forward to seeing when they brought him in, is that bit of, nastiness, that bit of a, devilman streak. But we just didn't see it enough, and like I say, I don't know whether that was because his confidence was so drained, and, I think it was tough for him as well, because obviously, if you're a forward who can't score, that's tough. But if you're a forward who can't score in a really struggling team that's getting beat on a weekly basis, and everyone's looking at you saying, when are you going to put the ball in the back of the net? And you're all trying your best, but it doesn't quite come off. I suspect it is tough. But yeah, we just didn't see that kind of that edge to Neil Mope that I think most supporters thought they were going to see. I think it was quite disappointing that he didn't quite have that little bit of an edge to him that I think some were hoping that he'd arrive on Merseyside with.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to hear. I was hoping to hear more about his antics. Yeah, very surprising. It may have been just the fact that his confidence just was shot to pieces, which is
Mm.
quite a shame, really. But look, Connor, I'm going to thank you for joining us on the Teams Like Brighton podcast. But before I go ahead and let you go off the weekend, my question to you is: what do you reckon the score is going to be? Just for context, Mark gone for a Brighton win, typical. I've gone for a 2-1 win, but Mark's gone a bit adventurous and saying 3-1. What do you reckon the score is going to be at Goodison Park at the weekend?
I think it'll be 1-0 Everton. I think it'll be quite tight, cagey. I think Everton will just nick it with the home foot, with the crowd up the way they have been and the momentum that they built. I think they'll just edge it. But just before we finish, you a bit nervous as a Brighton fan with Eric Ten Hag struggling at the minute and De Zerbi possibly going to Old Trafford?
I can't see it happen personally. I think De Zerbi's someone who needs to be in a project, and he's done that at Sassuolo, he's done it at Shakhtar, and that ended prematurely for the obvious reasons. And weirdly, that's benefited us because when Potter went, De Zerbi was our number one choice, and he was really, really invested in it. And he's someone that can see the potential in the club. He sees more than just what the players he has in front of him. He sees what's going on behind the scenes as well, and he really enjoys that as well. And the confidence he has in the youngsters as well is it's second to none. I mean, there are players like Buonanotte who clearly just aren't just there yet. They're not ready, but he's got important confidence in them, and the management is just second to none. That the belief in not just the fan base but the players as well it's just astronomical. It's levels that I would never have experienced, considering I still reminisce about losing to 9-man Wolves with team. So it's a really I don't know whether it's just me just being sheerly cocky or me being so confident in the club, but I'm not worried about De Zerbi going to Manchester United because I just feel he's just not interested in that kind of project. It's so toxic, United at the moment. Like, Gary Neville talks about the roof leaking. Their training facilities are dated. Their strategies all over the place. Their recruitment ideas are non-existent at the moment. I mean, their transfers in the summer were shocking in comparison to the confidence that they had in Hart from May onwards. You would expect them to get the players that he really meant to be. So I can't personally see De Zerbi getting the chat. Will Brighton give him the nods? Yeah, of course. I think we've got a strategy in place where we're happy for people to go off if they want to and speak to people. That was the case with Potter. But I cannot see De Zerbi going to Manchester United. I just think it's not his kind of vibe at all.
Yeah,
so
I only asked because I was at the Everton press conference yesterday. I was talking to a few of the national newspaper journalists, and we was obviously talking about Man United. And De Zerbi was the one name that kept popping up as a possible, solution to the problems at Old Trafford. But yeah, I said I think he'd be mad to go there. I think for what he's done and the credit he's built up to go there, I think he's just a club that eats up and spits it out. And very similar to what happened to Potter at Chelsea, wasn't it? I just think it's that type of machine where it's just, it's toxic and you'd be better to stay away from the place. But I do think if Manchester City come calling and Pep decides to depart, that De Zerbi could be the one who they go for.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think Guardiola said to a few players before that, De Zerbi is going to be a Man City manager in the future. Whether that's going to be his successor is a thing coming. But I can see it happening. I can see him going to City more than United. And to be honest with you, if De Zerbi ball goes into that City squad, that's frightening to think about. And I know we talk about Guardiola being so instrumental in the way we now play the football now and the way we see and appreciate it now. But I think De Zerbi's cooking something that is going to frighten a lot of other managers. And as well as that, I was going to say, in the summer he was linked to the AC Milan job, and that's his club. That is the team that he grew up loving and supporting. But he wasn't interested in that. So he's quite clear his head's screwed on lately. He knows that it's not just a name he's thinking about. It's what's going on there. He sees the bigger picture. And like you say, with United, I think he would be absolutely bonkers going there. He really would.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'd be totally the wrong move for him. And I think you look at Graham Potter, he's someone wasn't built up, probably not as much credit as De Zerbi, but got a lot of credit in the bank, and yet that one bad move to Chelsea's just it feels like it's derailed him a little bit now, doesn't it? And he's kind of left in the wilderness of where he might go next. But yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting because obviously I think Ten Hag's not too far from the choppers if they continue, and I'm sure De Zerbi will.
No, he's not.
The name on all United fans' lip, but he should be given what he's done at Brighton and what he looks like he could achieve in football.
And it'll be interesting to see how Manchester United keep on going. If not Old Trafford keeps falling down, or if they actually get something going for them, that remains to be seen. But Connor, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, mate. Enjoy the weekend. Are you going to the match?
I am indeed. Yeah, I'll be there for the Liverpool outcome.
Happy days. And as always, guys, if you fancy reading up on more things about the Everton, be sure to look it up over at the Liverpool Echo, the world famous Liverpool Echo. In fact, all the details on Everton and Football Club and what's going on there as well. Until then, guys, Connor, once again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And for all the listeners, great stuff. And everyone listening, thank you so much. Continue to like, subscribe, and listen to all the platforms, wherever you listen to it. And as always, guys, up the Albion.